Thank you everybody for coming. This is the monthly Main Street community meeting. Mary Kay would kill me if I started late, so we gotta start close to on time. So again, yeah, thanks for coming. We're gonna dive right in. We've got a couple different speakers lined up, so we're gonna start with Jesse from Police Activities League. So Jesse, come on up.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, slides.
Thanks for having me. My name's Jesse Jimenez. I'm the Executive Director for PAL, the Police Activities League of Southwest Washington. I think I presented here very briefly last year for a little bit in time, but I'm back today for a little bit more in-depth presentation about who we are as an organization and how we serve the city of Ridgefield. Next slide. There we go. So for those that aren't familiar, PAL is a nonprofit organization that works here in Clark County to promote positive relationships between youth and law enforcement. And we do that through implementing educational programs and recreational activities. So we work hand in hand with the police department in order to foster those positive community connections and relationships. All right, you might be wondering, why does an organization need to exist in order to promote positive relationships between youth and law enforcement? We surveyed youth in our very own programs at the very beginning of the program, so before they had those positive interactions. So these statistics are from right here in Clark County. These aren't Portland statistics, statewide statistics, national statistics. They're Clark County statistics. 1 in 5 youth reported they personally don't trust law enforcement. That's too high of a number. And my bigger issue is that 2 in 5 youth reported that their peers in their schools don't trust law enforcement. So the perception of our youth is that their peers don't trust law enforcement, and that perception becomes reality, right? And so we work every day the programs that we offer in order to reduce these numbers and show the youth in the community that law enforcement is there and that they should trust them and they can go to them when they need help. They're not an organization that should be feared. Next slide. All right, we offer lots of different program opportunities throughout the county, and a lot of these take place. Some of them take place in Ridgefield as well. So we have mentoring programs. That's where we connect officers into the schools during the school day. They visit about twice a month for an hour, and our staff takes them through some kind of facilitated discussion. They get to interact with the kids. It's not really focused on like, hey, you're going to go through this evidence-based curriculum and check all these boxes, but it's more letting kids and officers have an opportunity to just interact and have fun and, eat some chips and play a game and have those positive memories and see that, they're just people. You shouldn't be intimidated by the uniform. We also have education-based programs. So we have what we call a literacy event. It's a big assembly where we bring all the second graders from an elementary school. And in Ridgefield, that's a lot of second graders at one elementary school, as you well know. And officers come and they read them a book. They do a safety talk. PAL gives all the kids that attend a brand new book to take home with them. And then they get to tour all the police vehicles and different things like that. So they not only get to have a positive interaction with law enforcement, but those law enforcement mentors that are there are also promoting their education and encouraging them to continue to be lifelong readers. We also have our PAL Patrol program. This is where officers connect into the classrooms and adopt a classroom for the school year. And so they commit to visiting that classroom for about an hour once a month. And I think as of the end of this year, between the 2 elementary schools here in Ridgefield, we had about 4 or 5 classrooms adopted, which is really good. And so some of those classrooms are adopted by Ridgefield police officers, but some of those classrooms are also adopted by state troopers. We work with all the law enforcement agencies in the county so that kids know that they can trust all the uniforms. And then our summer programs, we run 7 weeks of summer camp. Lots of sports camps, mixed martial arts, football, basketball, soccer. But then we also run for middle schoolers and high schoolers. We run a CSI camp where they get to work with detectives and actually solve a mock crime throughout the week, as well as a Teen Citizens Academy where they get to learn about all the different specialty units and different things like that. Our high school CSI camp is actually being hosted at the Sheriff's Office West Precinct down at 179th here in Ridgefield. So if you know high schoolers that are interested, we still have open registrations for that. And all of those camps are $25 for the week. And we have plenty of scholarships available if finances are a burden. Next slide. All right, athletic programs. We're working on expanding our school-based athletic programs into Ridgefield schools as well, but currently we serve Evergreen and Vancouver school districts, and we run elementary basketball and soccer leagues for them, and the kids are able to participate in organized sports completely free of charge. So we take on all the financial costs of that. And then community collaborations is something that's really, really important to us. And so we work with other community organizations, or the city if they're putting on an event or different things like that, in order to coordinate law enforcement. And we bring in law enforcement in a way that our staff facilitates those positive interactions. So we participated in the Y Healthy Kids Day. We brought out our therapy course from Castle Farms, and the kids were able to have that positive interaction with a uniform in partnership with the Y. So that's just kind of one example. So always keep us in mind. If there's community events that you'd like us involved in, please reach out. All right, just a quick recap of last year. Last year in total, we served about 7,800 youth. So we have a lot of programs operating all year round, all over the county. And so we serve a lot of kids. But what I think is the most impressive number is that bottom one, which is 175 different law enforcement volunteers between the 8 agencies that we work with, volunteered almost 1,000 hours of their time into our programs. And Ridgefield Police is a good chunk of that. For a small agency, or a smaller agency comparatively to some of the others in the county, Ridgefield Police has a good level of engagement in our programs. And a lot of that starts at the top, and the chief's very supportive. But just even though the regular officers and sergeants are very supportive of coming out into our programs as well. Next slide. Perfect. All right. Just a quick look. We are community-based, and so even though we're very law enforcement affiliated, our board is made up of community members and law enforcement. So all the white names are going to be law enforcement. You might recognize your chief's name on our list of board of directors. We're really happy to have her leadership on our team. And that's really helped us to be able to expand our programs out in this direction as well. Cool, and that's my contact information. And then I just have a quick video for you guys. It's 4 minutes long that kind of encompasses why we do what we do.
Officer wellness is one of my top priorities, and the last few years in law enforcement have been pretty tough. It's been tough from the beginning of my career, the things we have to deal with. But in the last few years, for a variety of reasons, it's been even more taxing. There's a lot of stuff going on with juvenile crime all over America, and in Clark County, in Southwest Washington. And we've seen it take this toll. When I see deputies or officers work in the PAL program, you can see that they understand that there's more meaning to just going to calls and arresting people and dealing with some of the horrific things we have to deal with day after day after day.
Being in this profession, you see a lot of uglies, right? A lot of uglies in this profession. And for me, PAL is like a reset of the mind, a reset of just being a human being.
PAL just gets kids involved, and it gets them involved in working with people that they might not normally come in contact with unless they're in a bad situation. So it's positive interactions with police officers, positive interactions with the community.
I love PAL Patrol. PAL Patrol is my jam. I'm adopting a class, and I see them once a month. It's a great partnership with the teacher.
I think both Chris and I really believe in building relationships with kids and law enforcement. That would be our #1 priority.
Last year, there was a student named Mensar. He is Ukrainian, just moved to the country, very shy, introvert.
Chris, I think, kind of just took a special interest in him because he could see how tender he was and how maybe nervous he was.
We had this special bond, like almost like we connected right away. Like it reminded me of myself. You know, I moved here from the Philippines when I was 10. I moved to New York, and I was that kid, right? I was Mensar.
The beautiful thing was, by the end of the year, Chris and this little boy were best friends.
Every time I visited the classroom, his eyes would light up, like, hey, Deputy Tazan's here. And then all the way up until May, I just saw this progression. He came from this shy kid, and eventually by May, by the end of school year, he was everybody's friend.
I can tell when we make a difference when the quietest kid won't ask any questions for a few weeks, and all of a sudden they raise their hand or they break through, and you can see it in their eyes, the light in their eyes, that they're starting to connect with you. That's when I know that we're making a difference.
I believe this little boy will be able to come back to Chris and say, thank you. Thank you for making me feel seen and heard.
If there's anything that I can say that I really value about doing PAL since 2018, that would be something that I will always talk about, having that influence on a kid.
These kids are going to grow up and go, I remember when Deputy Chris was my friend, and I remember when he told me it's going to be okay.
PAL is a great organization because it brings police and youth together. And when you build these relationships, you don't even know at the time you're building those, but they'll come to you maybe a couple years later or even 10 years later and going, I either got into law enforcement or I have a better understanding of it because I had this mentor and friend in PAL. If you can reach out to one kid and make one kid's life better, then it's worth it.
Those type of experiences kind of motivate you each day to come to work, interact with your community, and just do your thing with PAL.
If I can only influence one kid, I feel like I've done a great job, right? But if I can influence a lot more, I mean, that's superhero status, I guess, right?
I don't want to take a lot of time because I know we have a tight schedule, but for those of you that don't know me, my name's Kathy. I'm a police chief here with Ridgefield, but I've lived in the community since I was 3. So I have memories back in the day when I was at Union Ridge Elementary and a trooper would come in. And I can just remember how much I idolized and looked at them and thought, how cool is this? And their shiny shoes and all of that. So it's just really important that we build those opportunities as we're a growing community and city. It's easy to let the little things slip by, and those relationship building opportunities are really critical. It's important that we get into the schools. We're very fortunate here in Ridgefield that we have a city council that is extremely supportive of youth engagement, and they want to see us out there engaging with the youth. And the nice thing about PAL is PAL creates that conduit for us, because it's easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day life and functioning of a department, and you don't have the time, or it's really difficult to make the time to create those opportunities. And that's what PAL does, is they work with us to create those opportunities to engage with our youth. So they can get it all set up and they tell our officers where to go, and our officers show up, and then we have these incredible engagements with youth. And I know that that has ripple effect as they get older. So that down the road, if we have an engagement or a contact with a person that maybe a young adult, maybe they'll have those relationships already built with us, so that those contacts can be easier for everybody involved. So I can't thank PAL enough. We just love working with them. We love the opportunities we have to bring them into our schools, and my goal as chief is to make sure that we have more of those opportunities. So thank you to you guys.
Thanks, Chief.
Take questions?
Yeah, if we have a couple minutes, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
One thing I was wondering is, how's PAL funded? So you're a nonprofit,
Yeah.
donations?
Yeah, that's a good question. About 95% of all of our funding comes from private philanthropy. So we don't receive any kind of funding from any of the cities or counties that, or the county that we work in. And we don't charge the police agencies for any of the services we provide to them. But instead it's community support and some fundraisers that we run that allow us to continue to do what we do. And so we have 5 full-time staff that work on coordinating law enforcement community connections across the entire county. And we're busy, but it's thanks to the support of the community that we're able to do that. Yes?
What kind of volunteers are you seeking, and what would that look like?
Yeah, so PAL is an interesting organization because a lot of our volunteer base is law enforcement, right? Because that's where a lot of our programs lie, is connecting the youth and law enforcement. We do have some opportunities for volunteers either on like our board committee services or to join our board of directors if that's something that people are interested in. But also in our mentoring programs, we normally team up with some community-based mentors and some law enforcement mentors and kind of maybe have half and half. In order to, some youth are more likely to connect with the community mentor first and then bridge the gap into connecting with a law enforcement mentor. Or because of the very nature of our programs, sometimes if an emergency happens, law enforcement has to leave. And we never want the kids to feel abandoned or like that they're not important enough. So we still have other community mentors that can continue the mentoring session. It doesn't happen often, but if a 911 call comes in, sometimes they got to go. So, yeah. So it kind of just depends what kind of opportunities you're looking for. We do have some non-law enforcement volunteer opportunities, but it's kind of on a case-by-case basis. So if you're interested, I'd encourage you to reach out and we can chat more about what your interests are and how you might be able to support.
Your fundraising, what forms are they? What do you do on that?
Yeah, so we have a handful of different fundraisers throughout the year. We have a big like dinner, auction type fundraiser with a paddle raise in October. So that's October 18th at the Hilton this year. We call that our Heart Behind the Badge event. That's where we raise, that's our largest fundraiser of the year. We also do like a cashback fundraiser at the beginning of the year in February, where we partner with 7 different tap houses or burger spots. We call it Burgers, Bites, and Brews. And so for the whole week long, we get 20% back from all the purchases at those locations. And Cap's Beer Reserve here in Ridgefield has always been a big sponsor of that. And so that happens in February. We also implemented 2 years ago a CSI Happy Hour event, which is essentially our CSI camp for teenagers, condensed down into a 2-hour program with beer, wine, and appetizers for adults to be able to participate and help detectives solve a crime.
I love that. Those are all fundraisers.
Fundraising is
great.
The happy hour one has been extremely popular.
Yeah, very popular.
And it's really
We sell
cool
out every
because
year, yeah.
Vancouver Police Department detectives actually set up a crime scene. And then you get to go through the various stages of solving it. It's very cool.
Yeah, this year they actually based it off an actual homicide that they solved about 2 years ago. And so there was actual autopsy photos and it was pretty in-depth. But
Any
yeah.
other questions for Jesse?
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And then I think I said this the last time I was here, but just to reiterate, Ridgefield, we started as just a City of Vancouver program, PAL did, but we really serve the whole county. And Ridgefield has a PAL chapter. It's us. And so reach out to us, connect with us. We are expanding the amount of activity we have here in the City of Ridgefield, and we can expand more when we're invited to different events. And so definitely keep us in mind. And we are your guys' organization just as much as we're the City of Vancouver's organization. Yeah.
At Main Street, really appreciate. That's why we wanted you back. So
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Really
appreciate it.
that. And contact info was there. Thank you again. Next up on the agenda, I think we'll have Megan with RMI.
Is that okay?
Yes, yeah, totally.
No? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Dudley. I'm with the Ridgefield Multicultural Initiative. We're a nonprofit. I'm here with my other board members, Rose Piccioni and Maggie Butler. And I was coming to tell you about our festival for this year. We partner with the City of Ridgefield to do the first Saturday in September's Multicultural Festival. And this year, our theme is food and fashion. And we love to partner with downtown businesses on this. In the past, we've done a passport program where you could go to each business and stamp outside of the business because part of our goal is to bring more attention to the local businesses, to bring money into downtown. And we hope that the festival day can be a little bit chaotic, and over the years it's gotten bigger and bigger. I think we had about 1,500 people last year. And so we know that the traffic and your regulars not being able to get to you can be a challenge. So we appreciate your your tolerance of that. But we hope in the process that people see your business and remember it and will come back because we have a lot of people that come in from out of town for the festival. Other businesses like the Old Liberty at times has done a special like a drink or some kind of food that goes in with our theme. And so if you wanted to do something like that, we would really welcome that. And if you would reach out to me and let me know, we can help promote it through our social media. What am I forgetting? Oh, and we usually will put a map up at our information booth that shows where all the food and beverages are so that we can direct people to your business if you are doing something like that. Any questions? Okay, we're also looking for business sponsors too. Our whole festival costs about $12,000 to put on, and we have a generous support from the city of Ridgefield with a lot of in-kind donations of the space and support. And we're about $2,500 under our budget that we need to raise still for the year. I have some, if you want, we have business cards if you need to get in touch, and we have flyers too.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're all looking forward. If anybody has the opportunity, if you see for the Multicultural Festival, the opportunities to maybe share on social media, anything you can do to kind of help amplify and spread the word. I know the board, we're also sponsoring, we're helping sponsor, and we're going to try to promote that as well. So
Thank you. Yeah,
it's a great event.
we appreciate your sponsorship.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. We're so sorry to
Nope.
bug out.
Did you want to leave the, if there's any of the stuff to leave, if people want to pick that up on their way out? That'd be great. Perfect. Next up, we have the City of Ridgefield. Claire Lust is going to talk to us about comprehensive planning.
Thanks, Randy, and thanks everyone for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Claire Lust. I'm the Community Development Director at the City of Ridgefield. I spend most of my time right behind that wall. So we are in the midst of a comprehensive plan update where we look ahead 20 years in the future as best we can and figure out where we're going and how to get there. Before I continue too far down that, I am going to pass around a sign-in sheet. This is if anyone wants to be on our email list for project updates and just to give us a better idea of who we talked to today. So I'll go ahead and get that circulating. So yeah, we, cities and counties in Washington are all directed by the state to periodically update our long-range comprehensive plans. These plans are, as the name suggests, pretty all-encompassing. They cover everything from land use to transportation, economic development, housing, the natural environment, parks and trails. You name it, it's in there. The goal is to develop goals and policies that address the needs of the city and make sense in our local context. So on the one hand, we get a lot of data to work with. We have population projections, employment projections from the state and county. On the other hand, we just need to talk to as many people as possible and figure out what themes bubble up from folks active in the community, folks who live here, work here, spend time here in any capacity in terms of what matters, what makes you proud about Ridgefield now, what do you want to see either stay the same or change as you think about what this community becomes 20 years in the future. So to do that, I'm hoping to facilitate a discussion with this group. I have Counselor Judy Chipman here taking notes as well, so we can capture Ridgefield Main Street's thoughts on these topics. So I'll go ahead and pose a couple questions to the group. Definitely no right or wrong answers kind of thing. This isn't a test, it's just a conversation. So first, if anyone would like to share, what do you love about Ridgefield now? What makes you proud to be part of this community?
The people.
Yeah.
I like the old time feel of that we're all connected and we can come out and have a hometown celebration, and it's just kind of grassroots. Kind of neat.
That grassroots, small town feel. Yeah.
I like the idea that you can make a difference. We're small enough that the city council and the different boards listen to us.
Yeah.
They listen to you.
I'd like to make a little bit of statement or a comment. Yeah, I got it. But, I think it was in 1994, me and Joe Melroy, our fellow commissioner of the board,
Yes.
were on the plan commission. And we actually started the Gulf Master Plan. And we hated it. And we had dozens of meetings. It was horrible. We complained about it. But the funny thing is, without that planning, it would have been a zoo. If you look around some of these communities in this county and maybe other counties, and look at their communities, it's a planning disaster. And that's what makes Ridgefield nice. And don't be confused with the growth and all the construction versus what we've done to plan for that. And that's why Ridgefield's so nice. We've planned for it, we've done it properly, and I've come 180 degrees, and we have to do our own planning and report. But if you don't plan, you have a mess.
Yeah.
And that's why Ridgefield's really great. It's, just look around some of these towns, like I said, and you'll see that it's unplanned disaster. And so Ridgefield's planned very well. They stuck to their plan pretty darn well, and should be confident for that.
I'll ask Scott a question. Did you plan for Costco?
I think you held it up peacefully.
You know,
crystal ball
we did, we did, but that's the funny thing, we did want these buildings. But it turns out, you kind of have to have them after a while. I mean, how can you keep them around? And, but by that planning, it'll reduce the impact, the negative impacts, but there's positive impacts too, obviously. So if you don't plan, you have disasters, all I can say.
I think what I love is that there's always something going on, and you typically will run into somebody that you know anywhere that you go. So that's always fun to have a friendly face.
Maybe on behalf of the rest of the Main Street Board, I would be remiss if we did not say that our favorite thing is about Ridgefield is the downtown. We're a downtown organization dedicated to the revitalization and the preservation of the things that make it special, but still also accommodating growth and more business and more small business growth. We have a lot of small business members on our board. And trying to balance keeping what's special about it, but still also make it inviting for new folks to come in and set up shop.
Absolutely. And what are those things, businesses, people, groups that make Ridgefield's downtown so special as compared to any other Main Street?
Well, I think when you get downtown, you have localized ownership. It's not corporate. You know, just look around. I've called Ridgefield basketball, boys basketball, for 17 years. Troy Couch, who's the barber down there, you know, he's taught numerous football leagues, you know, CCYF and stuff like that. And that's what you get in a small town. You know, people that are truly involved. That's why it's great, and we've kept that. You know, we do have our corporate stuff on the freeway, but it's the beauty of downtown. A lot of people gripe about the 2 miles in between, you know, downtown and the rest of it. That's not a curse, it's a blessing, because we can keep our individual identity down there. It's the core downtown, it's the soul of Ridgefield. It's not the freeway stuff, it's downtown.
Putting on my port hat, the connection to the waterfront, the wildlife refuge, that's something that other communities don't necessarily have. Battleground would kill for a waterfront. They just don't get one, they're landlocked. The other thing that comes up a lot is, you know, we're not like Camas and Washougal, Camas downtown. I mean, they've got dozens and dozens of historic old brick buildings. You know, Vancouver has probably hundreds. Just the nature of Ridgefield, you know, you count ours on one hand. You know, we've had fires and wood buildings, and the amount of brick buildings that are old and historic, there's just a few. So that's something that has kind of been extra significant for, you know, for us. So that and the connection really to the refuge and the waterfront, showing my bias. Yep.
Thanks, Randy. Anyone else? Things you love about Ridgefield now? What made you move here? What makes you stick around? If not, we'll move on. Great. So the second question that we've been asking groups such as yourselves is, think ahead to Ridgefield 20 years from now. I know that's a daunting task, but what might you want to see different, or what might not you want to see different? Are there, you know, new types of businesses, new types of community groups? I'll stop talking and let other folks fill in. Yeah.
Well, if I have a statement to make, Stay away from large warehouses if you can. That brings nothing to the city, not even very many jobs. And we want people to come here, live, work, and play, and, you know, start new business, stuff like that.
I don't think that we'll see this because Ridgefield proper, you know, the way it was when I graduated from high school here, it hasn't changed a whole lot. The business fronts, the storefronts have changed some, but we're still quaint little Ridgefield proper. Don't change that, but I don't think you can change that much. What's gonna happen though is when we start developing down at the waterfront, we wanna make sure we do that right. And that's why the board is taking their time to do it right. Especially our new park that's coming in. You know, they're not making any more waterfront, so we definitely wanna get that one right. And so, and that's what the city, of course, we're moving along in that direction, so.
Yeah, a big part of our planning process is, you know, coordination amongst other plans that are happening, and the waterfront planning process is obviously a big one that's going on now, and I know the port has put a lot of work into reaching out to the community on that as well.
We spent 20 years cleaning up that property down there.
Yeah.
We spent nearly, 15 or 20 years getting the money and then building that overpass in phases. You know, these things don't happen overnight. And so, you know, these planning processes, you know, they're 15 and 20-year projects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, our board, one of the things that's come up repeatedly from the Main Street board is when you ask that what we'd want to see in 20 years, there are some perennial issues. Parking is something that's raised at just about every meeting here. Is there an opportunity to improve the parking situation? City's working on that. Chuck Green came and spoke to us the other month and laid that out. Did a great job. So there are things that continue to need to move forward. Sidewalks, having ADA accessible sidewalks is something that again is raised pretty often. So again, without changing what's in downtown, but there's kind of deficiencies we can work on as far as parking and sidewalks. EV charging is brought up as another one that comes up. So we hear that a lot from our board and our members.
Just a comment, those of you who may be available this evening, the City Council will discuss and present the new parking plan this evening. I think you're going to discover there are many, many, many parking spaces currently not available in town that will be after the new plan is instituted. So, yes. Also, maybe I could just make a comment regarding Ridgefield. I moved here 21 years ago from Chicago, and I looked in many locations, finally thinking I was going to buy a house in La Center. My daughter and I were driving down I-5 back to Portland, and I saw this sign that said Ridgefield. I asked my daughter, Trace, what's Ridgefield? She said, Dad, I didn't even know it existed. So we turned off of I-5, came down Pioneer, came down the hill, and you can believe this or not, came into downtown Ridgefield, and I went, oh my God. There was something about it that was magical. And I must admit, the first 7 months I lived in Ridgefield, I thought I had committed social suicide. Having come from Chicago, there was no grocery, everything was limited. I can only suggest to you, 21 years later, those of you who have lived here forever may not realize what an incredibly special town this is. It really, really is. It's remarkable. I feel privileged to be able to live here.
Well, I moved here almost 20 years ago as well. And one of the reasons our family toured all of Colorado, everywhere, all the states. And one of the reasons why we chose and how Ridgefield really stuck out in our mind was my teenage daughter at the time. We'd come downtown, magical downtown Ridgefield, which was, you know what, a block, you know, coming from Southern California where, you know, and my teenage daughter with her Valley Girl voice said, "Oh my God, they can't even afford the green and the yellow light. They only have a red one." And I would love to see Ridgefield never have a green and yellow light downtown. I mean, that would be amazing to keep it that way. But besides infrastructure, what I would like to see in 20 years or before 20 years is the indoor performing arts. So it's some type of a, you know, multicultural building, multi-purpose building indoors that still knits this community together with all of the different groups and performances and things that the kids do and adults do, our talents to be on display, and we can still keep that because we don't really have that available. And there's so much talent in the city.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, any other kind of unique things like that that Ridgefield doesn't have now that could be a cool part of the community?
I don't know whether most people realize it or not, but this wildlife refuge is a tremendous draw. So much so that a couple of us visited with the project leader, Juliet, here at our annual Ridgefield Junction Association meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I asked her, well, how many public visitors do you get now? Would anyone like to just hazard a guess? Almost 250,000 people come through this little community off of that freeway. And they use both the auto tour route is the one that is heavily used, as we all know. But this foot trail up on the Cardi even, it's when they get the new other half of the building done up there, that's going to be a tremendous draw also. And the school kids that are going through there now. Some of you may not know, but I managed that wildlife refuge before I retired. When I retired, I figured we had 60 to 70,000 people visiting it annually. That was 25 years ago. But I always said, we're the best kept secret in Southwest Washington. I mean, it's to the point, they're almost loving that poor refuge to death. And fortunately, they got the tour route down there and keeping people in it, but it's pretty amazing what's happened down there. And, you know, I know Main Street, you know, how do you capitalize on stopping a few of those people to have a sandwich and a cup of coffee or whatnot? So that's a tremendous asset, of course.
The other thing we've talked about at Main Street, at the port, and other places is, so we talked about the refuge, but it's the refuge in the river. And, you know, the river specifically as a destination for kayakers, canoers, stand-up paddleboarders. I mean, we've all seen them. There's a lot of them. And we are a regional draw, literally without spending a dime. We've never bought an ad saying, come kayak here. This is all, they call it organic, you know, it's all organic growth. And one of the things that comes up, both with the port promoting the waterfront, with Main Street promoting the downtown, is, well, okay, what if we kind of lean into that identity? Kind of like Hood River. Like when you think of Hood River, you think of windsurfing a lot, or kite surfing or something like that. Like if we really become known as that kind of kayak destination and really embrace that, maybe do spend some money on marketing that, and do spend some money on you know, the port is working on that waterfront park is the first priority, and of that, probably the ADA accessible kayak launch is our first piece of the waterfront park we want to see happen, so everybody can use it. But really just kind of what these things that are already our strengths and we're already kind of known for and loved for, but really, you know, lean into that, embrace it, and kind of claim that as that's our identity. So, you know, somebody in Portland, if they do hear Ridgefield, you know, what's the first mental image? Maybe it's a bird on YouTube, or maybe it's, you know, the kayaking, because they come up in kayak. We have every weekend, REI has kayak expeditions out of the port. So does Alder Creek Kayak. So we have multiple kind of tour operators running these kayak expeditions every single weekend during the summer. So that's something that as we look to that 20 years, like, you know, where can we, and again, not changing what we are, but really more like enhancing and improving and doing a better job of what we do.
Well, to that point, you know, I've been downtown for almost 42 years. And the kayakers, not only do they kayak here, but they stay here to eat. And you can see them. And it's not knocking the boaters, but if you have a boat that's 40 to 50 feet long with the trailer, it's hard to park the door to do. But kayakers stay and shop and eat. And I've seen that for so many years now. That's an absolutely great thing we need to push.
Yeah. Well, I want to be, go ahead.
So I was thinking about like all the things that have been built in Ridgefield. It's great because you're bringing so many people in, right? You got the Rourke, and then there's all kinds of like sports activities happening there, bringing people into Ridgefield. I think about the casino and all the fun things that can happen there. I'm super excited about Costco. I can't believe that it's probably going to be here in August. And I think I was talking to another mom recently, and she was saying, gosh, if we had a Target in Ridgefield, I don't think I'd ever have to leave. And I think that would be something that some of our teenagers would really enjoy too. I'm like, you know, Woodland can keep Walmart, but a Target could be an amazing thing, which may not fit the mold, and that's completely okay. But it's like, have to say it, you know.
I've heard that from several people. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh. Great, thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any thoughts to add while we're here together? If you're like me and think of things later, we do have a survey live on our website, which I will quickly run back and get a flyer with a code you can scan to go straight to it when I'm done talking here. But it's basically the same questions in survey form. So if you or a family member or a neighbor, you know, if you're thinking of things later, that's another way to share with us. We're planning on keeping that survey open probably till the end of this month. It's been live for a few months now, and we've been having these conversations with different community groups for a few months now too. So we are really starting to, you know, be able to pull out some themes from those conversations, and a lot of what we've heard here this morning is definitely resonating. And yeah, you know, the more people we hear from, the more meaningful that information becomes, and the better we're able to say, yes, this is what we're hearing from the community, and that feeds into the goals and policies we ultimately come up with the council to start implementing over the next 20 years. So with all that, thank you so much for the time today and for participating. It really means a lot for our process. It's a lot of fun to just hear from folks in the community. Always hear something unique and different and interesting. So thank you very much. I'll go ahead and grab that survey flyer so we can get those passed around, and I'll go ahead and hand it back to Randy. Your third in charge.
Claire. I know the Main Street Board just really appreciates the city being super engaged and really listening. I was thinking that Bruce is, they've come and talked to you at the port, they've come and talked to you at the Fairgrounds Neighborhood Association, you got to hear them here. There's folks who, you know, we hit people multiple times, or we hear from city staff multiple times since they're making the rounds, because they're super engaged. And that's something that has a long, even before any of us three, the city has a long history of doing that. I remember when I was on planning commission, we had an open house, and they said, no, we're gonna have a big turnout. People love community engagement in Ridgefield, and hordes of people putting sticker dots on things on the open houses. So it's just something the city does really well, and our downtown, our board, we've got a ton of business owners, and they know they're listened to. They know they do reach out to you if they have an issue, maybe at all times of the night, but you definitely will hear from us. So we really appreciate our city listening to your downtown merchants, your downtown board. So thank you. Judy?
I'm gonna meet with the Ridgefield Junction Board on Monday, so it's gonna be interesting to see what their answers are, which I expect them maybe to be a little different, so it'll be interesting to meet with them on Monday night to say. So just as a note, the school board and the board from the report board and the city council all met with the consultant one night here in this room. And when we started answering the questions, and he lives in Portland, he looked at all of us and he said, "I want to move here." He said, "You guys, I want to move here." It was cute, but just all the great positive answers from everybody just made him want to move over to Ridgefield. So I think everybody pretty much loves living here, that's for sure.
A few other odds and ends. Wanted to note that Main Street Day, our big event, Main Street Day, is Friday, July 12th this year. There'll be a lot of stuff going on. There'll be game booths. I think PAL is going to be there for Main Street Day. For the kids, we've got a ventriloquist coming. We've got music. We'll have DJ Craig Brown. He's going to be DJing that. And I think we're going to have commemorative t-shirts. This year, you'll see on a lot of our Main Street materials, you'll see the commemorative Main Street 10th anniversary, because this year is the 10th year of Ridgefield Main Street being founded. We are part of what's a nationwide movement, the most successful downtown revitalization effort nationwide is the Main Street program. We started that 10 years ago. Obviously, lots of, if you're coming to these meetings, some of what Main Street does. Probably most notably, we've raised and are spending $1 million in the last 10 years in Ridgefield's downtown, which is not bad for a little town. So big track record. Lots of projects going on. You'll see lots of facade projects continue this year. You'll have updates, more updates on those later. Wanted to make the rounds, see for the good of order if folks had other announcements, other things going on they wanted to share with the group.
Just a quick comment, those of you may have noticed the area across from the Sportsman is all fenced off. We're getting ready to remediate all of the pollution in that area and make it available for development. So that'll be very, very positive for downtown. We lose parking, but what will replace it will be very, very valuable. Yeah.
As long as we're talking about cleanup, the port is continuing with their uptown cleanup of some yards, and we've got 10 ready that we'll working on this later this summer. So we get this done, we'll have next summer to finish it up. Hopefully that is the end of our multi-decade cleanup from Pacific Wood Treating Corporation. So it's been a long, long battle.
We're almost to the finish line.
Yes, I think we can actually see it.
Yes. Other announcements? Allie, not to put you on the spot, but don't you guys have that night market going on down at?
Yes, so the neighborhood annex is also our office, cross country line, 411. Pairing with the first Saturdays, they do a night market the first Fridays or the day before first Saturdays. At the office, vendors come in, there's live music, something very nice to enjoy. I believe that's open until 8 or 9 that Friday, and then it opens in pairs with first Saturday throughout the day. So vendors are down there to kind of extend the downtown area so people could go to the farmer's market, come by there, just really support that interconnected community and get a lot of people involved and out there.
We really appreciate that. That's something that's new for this year. our Main Street district, part of being a Main Street organization is you have to draw lines on a map in a district. And if you think of our downtown, where we've drawn the lines, so up there, that's Division. So it's Division in Maine. That's really kind of the north end. So like when you see our flower baskets down the streets, we try to concentrate those in kind of that Main Street district. So going up to Division over things like the Tea House, things like that. So it's a whole area, and that really adds a lot. So we just really appreciate that. Other things going on?
Nothing going on, but I have someone's calendar and pen.
Oh, she got it. Yeah, there you go.
And maybe Commissioner Wiseman did most of the update for the port. The only other thing I would add is I think today is the last day, talking about that waterfront park plan. The city and the port are jointly partnering on planning a waterfront park. Today's the last day for comment on the preferred draft final plan. So that's hosted on the city's ridgefieldroundtable.org. If you go there, you can see the drawings. Yeah.
The QR code on the handout is also a roundtable page, so if you happen to be on there for one or the other, it's the same.
There you go. Two birds, one stone. You can go there for that. Give some comments on that preferred final concept. I think city and port staff really excited. We've had a number of events, and the different options have kind of narrowed down to what we think is a really good preferred draft. Next, once we kind of finish up this public piece of it, you'll see us take it to the Port Commission and the City Council for their work, Parks Board as well. So that waterfront park is gonna, somebody asked, well, when are you gonna start? And just so you know, so we have kind of realistic expectations, this might not be something like we write a $3 million check and somebody just builds us a park like bam all at once. You may see this as more of a phased approach. So maybe we go out and we get a boating grant for the handicap kayak launch. Maybe that's a piece. And then there's another piece for improvements to the trail. You'll see over the next few months, we just had historical sign kiosks done. We did in partnership with the Clark County Historical Museum with a grant from Clark County. So you'll see some signage along the trail. So it's going to happen in pieces as kind of funding permits and development schedule permits. But you'll see that park just kind of continually improve. Continuous improvement is kind of how we're thinking before we get to that final master plan. Moving, another one is, what are you doing with the Raptor Cam? Well, this year was the trial run. The pole right now is in a spot where you would not want it to be in the future. You'd want it to be in the waterfront park area. So parts of those waterfront park plans include kind of a permanent pole for the Raptor Cam, the osprey nest, providing them a home. So this was more of a trial run. For those that are asking, we think it's going to rain this weekend, which may clear the obstruction on the lens. If you've been following, you know what that's about. So, yeah, from the unexpected. So those are maybe the only other pieces of the port that, besides the cleanup. We're also out picking derelict boats. If you remember, Eagle Scout Christian Seaver presented on his derelict boat project. He mapped 14 partially sunken or derelict boats out in the river. We've caught one. It's in our backyard down at the waterfront. We've got 4 more that we've slapped notices on that we're coming to take them. And so we're gradually trying to clean up those nasty derelict boats out of the river. So that's new for this year. We've never really done that, but this year we kind of, with the commission's support, we've jumped in feet first, and I've got funding from DNR to remove those nasty sunken boats and clean up the river. So we're doing that.
You might tell them about your meeting with Juliet and the kiosk.
Yeah. So if you've walked out onto the waterfront trail, and then there's a spot where it connects to the refuge trail at Carney Lake, you've seen for a long time there's been a kiosk for signage that the refuge has, but it's been empty because they haven't actually had the signs. The signs have been printed. They were at FedEx waiting to be picked up, so those are going to go up really soon. The refuge is going to mount those, and maybe pretty soon there will be some really nice kind of explanatory signage there at that Carty Lake entrance. That's something that's new. Is the refuge is, they always said they had 2 entrances to the refuge, and now they're saying 3. So besides the River S and what's the other entrance, but the main entrance with the visitor center, now they're saying we have a 3rd entrance, and it's on the Ridgefield waterfront at Carty Lake. So we'll see more folks coming out there as well. So yes.
Are you planning to put any native plants in at the kiosk? Yes.
We would like to. I would say we're limited and actually they're more survivable, but we do have some environmental restrictions because of the port's property and things we can't plant, because I think we've explained before that the port property is not clean, it is safe, and there's a difference. The remaining contaminants are under a protective cap. There are certain plants that unfortunately have tap roots and could draw contaminants up. So when we talk to the landscape architects, because I don't know one plant from another, we give them the list they can't use and the list they have to use, and they try to see if there's a plant that
We can
fits
change
that.
the list.
True. So yes, we'd like to. And landscaping's part of that park plan too. That the waterfront, we really just sprayed it with grass seed, with a native mix of grass seed when we finished the cleanup. But it would be nice if you look at those park plans. We talk about some shade trees. We talk about different levels of grass, like an event lawn that has more of a manicured short grass, but then also more of kind of taller grasses, natural play areas, things like that. So.
I've got one more comment to make. I'm sitting here thinking about long-range plans and whatnot, and this brain isn't quite what it was 20 years ago, but 15 or so years ago, there was a group of young adults that came in, college students and above. It was called the EDAW, and I don't remember what that exactly stands for. Excuse me, but their long-range plan was for Overlook Park or something similar. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
With a connectivity to the wildlife refuge. And of course, they started planning that visitor center prior to 1997 when I left. That's how long that's been. But here, we now have that connectivity between Overlook Park, we've got the rail overpass, we've got the trail to their kiosks, which will now have panels, and the trail, a seasonal one, be it as it is, all the way to their brand new visitor facility / office, and a sidewalk coming down Main Street back to Overlook Park. That was a long-range plan 15 to 20 years ago. And here it is coming to fruition.
And I would say pieces of that are still in the works. The city's working on, they've got that Federal Lands Access Program grant, the FLAP grant, and that pedestrian bridge. When we fenced off Division and closed that crossing, the city's working on how could you reestablish a pedestrian connection at Division and reconnect those neighborhoods. So some of that's still in the works. All right. Well, Mary Kay would really kill me if I got you out of here late. So it is 9:30. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. All right.